In this video, I'm going to be talking with you about some of the ideas that we are building upon with quadrilaterals. So third graders focused all of their geometry on quadrilaterals, four-sided shapes. And we are going to be using the same vocabulary and attributes that they use, but we're just adding one more element that they need to recognize. So in fourth grade, or in third grade, they really focus a lot on this hierarchy here, that all of these shapes kind of have a connection in some way, and then there's this trapezoid here. But they all are quadrilaterals because they have those four sides, but trapezoids are in their own group because they only have one set of parallel lines, only, ever. But then all of these are connected because they all have two sets of parallel sides. So parallel, that's two, parallel one, parallel two, parallel one, parallel two, parallel one, parallel two. So these are all called parallelograms. Okay, so I can call this a parallelogram also. So that's tricky for even fourth graders, that it also has the name square, but it can be called a parallelogram. All of these can be called a parallelogram because they have four sides, four corners, and two sets of parallel sides. Okay? When you go down here, though, these shapes get another name. I can call them a quadrilateral and a parallelogram, but this shape also gets the name rhombus because its extra attribute is that it has equal sides. So it has the four sides, the four corners, two sets of parallel sides to get that parallelogram name, but because it has equal sides, it's called a rhombus too. So it has three names. A rectangle doesn't get the rhombus name always, but it does get this name because it has square corners. So you call it a rectangle if it has four sides, four corners, two sets of parallel sides, and square corners or 90-degree angles. Okay? So this shape has two names also, parallelogram, rectangle. Now this shape down here gets many names. It is called a square because it has four sides, four corners, two sets of parallel sides, all sides equal, and 90-degree angles or perpendicular lines. So you got to kind of be able to, this kind of goes back and forth, that a lot of these shapes can have multiple names based on what they have. But the element that we're adding to shapes this year is noticing the angles that are within the shapes. So in third grade, they noticed parallel lines and the number of lines, and if the lines and sides are equal to each other. But now we are looking also at the kinds of angles that are in the shapes. So you should be able to notice that this parallelogram has two acute angles, but also two obtuse angles. This rectangle, which is also called a parallelogram, has all 90-degree angles or all perpendicular sides, but it also has parallel sides. These are the perpendicular because they intersect. These are the parallel because they'll never intersect. This rhombus here has two acute angles and two obtuse angles, but it doesn't have any parallel or perpendicular lines. And then a square always has four 90-degree angles or two sets of parallel lines and perpendicular lines here, 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 and here. So again, a lot of this might sound familiar to you, and it is. We're adding another layer of the angles. We've learned about angles, and now we want to recognize them in the shapes that we've already been learning about for many years. So keep that in mind when they're talking about quadrilaterals. We want to talk about what they already know in terms of how many sides and the parallel or perpendicular elements of their sides, but also the angles that are within the shapes. So encourage that and reinforce that when your fourth grader is talking about, practicing, learning about any of the shapes that they see, especially quadrilaterals.